Hi class, we are going to discuss the inherited normal functions. In the last video, we talked about those that are not normal, which are public but not inherited. And this time, we are going to discuss the inherited normal functions. So there are four types: the declared and implement ones functions, and then the overloaded functions, redefined functions, and then next video we are going to talk about specifically virtual overwritten functions. Want to stress that they are all public functions because private functions are not being inherited. So let's look at a example, or our example, because you already know that it's the shape, the rectangle and square classes. In the shape class, we are adding a function called getArea, which is just a accessor function. We already have this friend function that is overloading the extraction operator. And then I'm adding also the getShapeName function that will basically return the name of the class. In the rectangle class, we are only going to redefine the string, the get shape name function again. And in the square class, it's the same. That's the only thing that we are adding. And so I want to then in the main function call the getArea function, which belongs to shape, but we are using the object square to call that function. In the overloading scenario, you already seen it in the first video. I'm not going to repeat, but for completeness, I'm just leaving in here because it's the second kind of function that we are talking about here. And then we are calling the function that's being redefined in basically all the descendants, but it doesn't have to be. If you don't want to use this function in one particular descendant class, you actually don't have to redefine it. So there is two examples here. The first one is using the object square and calling its own getShapeName function. In the second case, I'm actually using the object square, but then calling its parent's getShapeName function. So how to do it is to use a square dot notation, but then using the name of the getShapeName function, using the class name here and colon colon, and then call the name of the function. So let's run the code. As you can see, well, I will just run it again just so it's cleaner. And so the getArea function, which belongs to shape, has no problem getting the area size of the square, which is 25. And then the overloading extraction function will call the friend function that's overloading the extraction operator, even though it's defined inside the shape class, the square object can still get it. And then the getShapeName, the first case we are calling the one that is defined in the square class. So it goes to the square class and just return the word square. In the second case, is calling the one that belongs to the rectangle class, and that's why rectangle is being returned. So just want to reiterate, calling a normal function is very simple. Just use the dot operator and to call some function that does not belong to you but your ancestor. overloaded function is kind of the same, even though the signature is different, but because it's basically you can replace your grandparents. So it's like you have a wedding party, but or your grandparents is invited to a wedding party, and then you go there in place of your grandparents, for example. And then in terms of the redefined function, if we want to call the function that you defined in the same class, then it's just a dot notation, very straightforward. But if you want to access any ancestor function having with the same name, then you have to specify it because you have one yourself, right? So to recap, we have talked about 3 types of inherited normal functions and how to call them. In the next video, we are going to talk about virtual functions. We'll see you soon.